Cafe, which is a joint session with the Knowledge for Development Partnership, of which many of us here are also part of, KM4DEV and the Real KM magazine. In particular, warm welcome to Bruce, who's here today. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be working on our personal statements for the agenda Knowledge for Development. And this is really a part of the campaign organized by KM4DEV, K4DP and Real KM magazine to have multiple knowledges included in the Pact of the Future, which is going to be the new version, if you like, of the SDG document, which is going to be accepted by the UN in September in the Summit of the Future. Now, the campaign, and if you want to know more about it, Bruce can tell you all about it because he's leading this campaign and many of us are involved. But we have had some success already because Action 30 of the Pact of the Future now includes reference to local knowledge, which it never had before. So we're really very excited about that, which is fantastic, but we want more. And part of that is a greater recognition of the importance of multiple knowledges and also complexity. So we're still carrying on with this campaign, and this is part of it. And in this, we're going to be writing our personal statements for the agenda Knowledge for Development. Okay, so now I'm going to hand you over to Madina. Madina studied international relations and diplomacy at SOAS, and she also has a bachelor's in international relations. And Madina is originally from Senegal, but she now lives in London, and she's the project management assistant at K4DP, and she's helping us on this project. So welcome, Madina, and over to you.
All right. Hi, everyone. So I'm just going to talk briefly about the Agenda Knowledge for Development, or K4DP. So the 4th edition of the agenda will be published July of this year. And in this new agenda, we aim to reflect the latest insights on how knowledge can drive sustainable development. And this edition will also feature diverse perspective from around the world and will be crucial for our advocacy at the UN Summit for the Future in September of this year as well. Our main goal is to urge the UN and its member states to adopt this updated agenda and to ensure that this new edition captures a true diversity of perspectives. The agenda is also issuing an open letter to stakeholders across all sectors to actively contribute their voices, visions, and ideas, which is where this workshop comes in. I'm now going to give the stage to Andreas Brandner, who will be speaking with us today and presenting the agenda in more detail. So Andreas is the Executive Director at Knowledge for Development Partnership, the CEO of Knowledge City, and the Managing Director of KMA, Director of K4DEV, MUBS, and Director of the JCKSIMU. He's a key figure in development partnership and has made significant contributions to the field of knowledge development alongside with Sarah. Andreas is one of the authors of the agenda as well. Thank you. Andreas, I think your mic is muted.
Sorry for that. Thank you, Madina, for this warm introduction. And indeed, yeah, over the years, some functions have assembled, but it would not be possible to have so many different roles if these would not have been, say, in partnership with so many others. And Sarah indeed should highly be mentioned as one of the key figures in the agenda as well. But altogether, the Agenda Knowledge for Development is a joint effort of hundreds of people, I would say, right now. And I will tell you a bit about its motivation and structure, contents, without losing too much time. Actually, the initiative started in 2015 when the SDGs have been launched, and we realized that knowledge management is not really reflected And we have been somehow disappointed that it is not very explicit in the agenda 2030. So a team originating in Austria has then thought about how to create an agenda knowledge that links at least to the SDGs, and maybe in the future can then be integrated or influence the agenda somehow. The idea of working with statements from different representatives or stakeholder groups originates again in the Austrian agenda knowledge, which has been developed in 2008. And we worked with only 22 statements, but very high-level people, and the agenda that we extracted from it had its influence. Not very big, but it made a difference. And we thought, well, let's do this for the world. And although it was a bit bold in the beginning, we luckily had the opportunity to meet the Director General of UNESCO at an early stage, and she was immediately on board to co-create an agenda knowledge for development, considering that UNESCO is a knowledge organization or knowledge-focused organization, science, education, culture. And she realized that UNESCO alone cannot advocate adequately for knowledge, because knowledge is a distributed resource. It is with, okay, science, okay, yes, education, but also companies, governments, NGOs, and every citizen, everybody, every organization has knowledge. And that is why we, I think, developed very fast from there. Many different stakeholders, directors, or young people, either from university or companies, business people, NGOs, artists, scientists have all contributed to the agenda. Currently, we have more than 200 statements. About 150 are printed in the third version already. The agenda itself has been launched in 2017, already in the second version at the Global Knowledge Partnership Conference in Geneva at the UN. We have been lucky to work with the Joint Inspection Unit of the UN, which did an inspection just at that time, and they launched their inspection report. And if the Joint Inspection Unit invites, everybody has to be there. So we had the opportunity to present this result in the presence of all UN system organizations. And that's how it created its outreach and initial impact. In the beginning, the reflection on it was positive, and many, specifically UN organizations, took it to revise their strategies. Then I would say there was a general flow of acceptance and interest. We moved to different countries who also used it to adopt it in their national context, like, for instance, in Uganda, who has developed a national knowledge agenda. But then, specifically through the initiative of KM4DEV and K4DP and the partnership with Real KM, the number of citations has increased dramatically, and I receive almost every day a message that someone has cited the agenda knowledge for development in an academic format, which means we have achieved a lot already, and the outreach is bigger than we have ever expected. Now that we are working towards anchoring in the UN strategies, we have to adjust it, to update it, adopt new topics, technologies, generative AI, etc., and also topics that have not adequately been addressed at that time. And I would like to mention the decolonization of knowledge, and the protection and advancement of indigenous knowledge, just to give 2 examples. So that's why we want to update the agenda. We want to revisit it and reach out for further contributions, which means you are invited to be a game changer for this next version, the 4th edition. And you will find the information, the agenda, on k4dp.org/agenda. So when you click on download global agenda, you will then come to the document itself. I will probably start from the beginning to introduce it very quickly. Altogether, we have about 130 statements, which we analyzed and extracted, clustered the topics, and from there developed 14 knowledge development goals. And I don't want to go through every detail, but encourage you to have a look at it yourself. But it spans from pluralistic, diverse, inclusive knowledge societies, local knowledge ecosystems, up to the improvement of knowledge strategies in development organizations, safety, legal knowledge, ICT is represented, the arts, culture, etc. So we have a wide range of topics, and that is reflected by the statements. So we have invented nothing. Everything comes from the statements. As you can see, here is the list of contributors. We have a good diversity. I would not say an excellent, but it's not bad, I would say. And we want to further improve it so that in terms of regional distribution, age distribution, gender distribution, stakeholder background, etc., etc., we have high inclusion. The preface will also be adjusted. Formerly, it was the Chancellor of Austria contributing to it. So here you see that Sarah and myself, we have been the key editors. We have also been authors, as Madina says, but mainly our work was the editing one. And the agenda has an introduction and declaration, but then the goals are always, let's say, condensed in a few paragraphs, and that's it. Actually, we asked the participants to write about their vision. How would they imagine a sustainable knowledge society? And then we also said, what about the challenges? If you find challenges, please let us know. And the third, we encourage them to share some action to be taken. So that we have a big vision, a dream. We understand what are the difficulties, the challenges, and we know what is the way forward. And the statements are limited to 2,000 characters. And I would like to introduce you just to a few to give you an idea. So what Irina Bokova, the Director General of UNESCO, wrote is, of course, the official response of an international organization reflecting the world, built on years of analysis and prioritization. At that time, UNESCO has already published a book on knowledge society, a handbook, and so much more. So the statements are really to the point, the statement here, and provides directly access to the key topics that UNESCO as an international organization has identified. And I'll not read it, but that's reflecting an international organization. But I would like to encourage you not only to think about the world, please think also about yourself, your individual background, the pain points that you feel, the context that you represent, or your individual situation. This is what we need. If everybody writes about the world, then the real context is never really. And for instance, Arno from UNDP has written as a personal statement, not as UNDP. And his statement was so funny, and I love it so much. He says, I was hesitant to contribute because, let's face it, who is going to read this? Okay, you will. It's so funny. But in the world of development, you're unfortunately the exception. Reports often remain unread as they are ineffective, supply-driven knowledge channels. But since you are here, I'll share my one personal idea for knowledge management for development. Less talk, more action. To quote Elvis, a little less conversation, a little more action. A more credible KM source, Einstein, the only source of knowledge is experience. So he says, let's move from abstraction to action, from reports to results. And you can read the rest, which I find personal, engaging, and also to the point. As you can see, it is much shorter. And what we can take is maybe 1, 2, 3 key messages, and they really make a difference. Then others are even shorter. And Hope from Uganda, a company, says that, even addressing the initiative of a knowledge partnership, says that including us as business people is most welcome, because the more we talk with each other, the more we are creating this kind of community, the more the knowledge will also be accepted. And so everybody has his or her contribution. That's what I wanted to say. There is nothing wrong. There is nothing that you can do wrong when you write about your personal view. And really, your contribution is extremely appreciated. So the 4th edition that we are currently working on, in partnership with Real KM Magazine and the KM4DEV community, shall reach the UN, but it shall also reach each and every one. It stays also as an instrument for regional, national, and organizational impact. So feel free to visualize different recipients of this agenda. Even your boss may be interested in it, or your colleagues, or your children. Write it for those people who you love most. Write it from your heart. Write it from your context. Write it so that you think, if only one of these topics will be implemented, I have made a difference for a better world. We really appreciate whatever you write. Sarah, if I have forgotten to mention something, please add on. Otherwise,
no, yeah. Thank you very much, Andreas. Does anybody have any particular specific questions for Andreas before we go forwards? I think that was all very clear. So before we go into the breakout groups, we're going to share you with some experiences of people who've already written their statements, people who are really very early in doing this. Let me just quickly share my screen. Yeah. So the first person I'd like to ask, I think you can see this statement, can't you, from Atsu. Atsu, would you maybe explain a little bit about how you wrote your statement and what inspired you? And please feel very free to talk in French.
D'accord, bonjour à toutes et bonjour à tous. Merci beaucoup au professeur Andreas pour sa présentation, ses explications. Merci à Sarah également de m'avoir honoré de partager mon expérience avec les participants, surtout francophones. Vous allez m'en excuser beaucoup parce que ma connexion n'est pas très bonne et c'est pour cela que j'ai coupé la vidéo. Donc, si je vais recouper ça pour pouvoir avoir une connexion plus fluide. OK. S'agissant de la déclaration, d'abord, je sais que les francophones sont moins nombreux à écrire des déclarations et c'est l'occasion pour nous de les encourager. Nous qui sommes francophones ici sur cette plateforme et qui participons à cette c'est l'occasion pour nous de partager des informations sur la rédaction des déclarations sur nos différentes plateformes francophones pour que nous ayons beaucoup plus de déclarations des francophones dans la quatrième agenda, dans ce quatrième agenda de la connaissance pour le développement. Et moi, pour cette quatrième édition de l'agenda de la connaissance pour le développement, déjà, pour les francophones, nous devons comprendre que agenda, c'est juste le programme. Donc, c'est un programme de connaissance pour le développement. Comment est-ce que nous pouvons, ou bien le monde peut mettre la connaissance au service du développement durable, au service du développement dans sa globalité. Et moi, j'ai pensé à la décolonisation de la connaissance dans un premier temps, parce qu'il va falloir que nous pensons non plus à le nord contre le sud, mais que dans le monde entier, on reconnaisse que la connaissance est la même. Une connaissance occidentale n'est pas supérieure à une connaissance africaine ou asiatique. Chaque connaissance a son poids et chaque connaissance a ses mérites dans son contexte et dans son environnement. Du coup, il va falloir que nous décolonisions la connaissance. En second point, j'ai pensé au nexus, au global nexus, qui m'amène à parler un peu de la réduction du fossé et de l'équitabilité des fruits, ou bien de la jouissance des fruits de la connaissance. C'est-à-dire que il va falloir qu'on essaie de trouver le juste milieu pour que les pays les moins avancés ne soient pas des territoires, des terrains d'expérimentation pour les pays les plus industrialisés. Disons, les pays les moins industrialisés, en quelque sorte, pas les moins avancés, parce que c'est un autre terme. Donc, les pays les moins industrialisés ne soient pas des territoires d'expérimentation pour les pays les plus industrialisés. Et donc, il va falloir que nous mettions l'équité dans le processus de développement que nous mettons en place. Et également, l'utilisation de la connaissance locale. Parce que chaque peuple a ses réalités, comme je le disais, et pour mieux combattre le changement climatique Et pour vraiment assurer un développement durable dans ce monde, il va falloir que les connaissances locales soient vraiment valorisées parce que chaque peuple sait mieux lutter, sait mieux résister et chaque peuple a ses propres moyens de résilience face au changement climatique. Et également, je me suis dit que, comme le professeur Andreas l'a dit, il va falloir aussi penser à moi, à nous propres. Et je me suis dit qu'il faille, ou bien qu'il va falloir travailler avec les politiques au niveau de l'Afrique, surtout de l'Afrique subsaharienne et l'Afrique francophone, dont mon pays fait partie, mon pays, le Togo, pour que nous puissions, ou pour que les décideurs puissent vraiment intégrer la connaissance dans les politiques de développement. Dans les politiques de développement. Parce que sans connaissance, le développement n'est pas possible. Nous ne pourrons rien si nous n'avons pas la connaissance. Le peuple ne pourra pas se développer si le peuple n'a pas la connaissance. Et donc, dans toutes les politiques de développement de nos pays aujourd'hui, surtout en Afrique et surtout en Afrique francophone, il serait important que les décideurs se penchent sur l'intégration de la connaissance et de plus la gestion de ces connaissances-là dans les politiques de développement. Et ce sont ces enjeux et les différentes thématiques dont je viens de parler, la décolonisation de la connaissance, le global nexus, l'utilisation des connaissances locales dans la lutte contre le changement climatique et l'intégration de la connaissance, de la gestion des connaissances dans les politiques de développement sont des enjeux majeurs pour construire un monde plus équitable et plus durable. Donc, voilà un peu comment moi j'ai toujours réfléchi, comment j'ai toujours pensé pour proposer une déclaration. Et c'est ce que j'avais fait pour les éditions précédentes de l'agenda et également pour l'agenda, la 4e édition. Voilà ce que moi j'ai pensé, j'ai proposé pour que nous puissions avoir vraiment un monde juste, équitable et pour que nous puissions construire un avenir meilleur et sans difficulté, sans conflit pour les générations futures. Donc, voilà un peu quelques idées que moi j'ai développées dans ma déclaration. Je vais m'arrêter là pour que s'il y a des questions, nous puissions vraiment discuter. Thank you, Sarah.
Merci beaucoup, Atso. Thank you very much for that. For those of you who couldn't follow Atsu's French, he also there's also a translated version. And I'd just also like to invite anybody who wants to write their statement in French or Spanish in their own language with an English translation is very, very welcome to do so. I would now like to give you another example. Naomi Kemboi has also been very quick writing her statement, talking about the importance of knowledge management in organizations and the challenges facing organizations. Naomi couldn't be at the meeting today to talk to us, but you just so you know, her statement's here. But who is here to talk to us is Mabel Shu, who has not only written a poem as her statement, but she's also made a video which we're going to show you. But Mabel, maybe you would just like to say a few words about what inspired you. Mabel is one of the people doing the Knowledge Management for Agricultural Development Challenge at the moment. Mabel, can you maybe unmute? And great, thank you. Tell us what inspired you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Sarah. I'm just going to say a very short story. So 4 years ago, I had never heard the word knowledge management. I had never heard knowledge management as a combination of two words. Knowledge, yes. Management, yes. But knowledge management as a whole, I had never actually heard of it. And then 2 years later, I got a job to work with the knowledge management unit of a civil society organization. So there am I thinking that, oh, wow, I am doing knowledge management. Then I got to attend the sessions around the KM4DEV 2024 challenge. And we were taken through the different aspects of knowledge management as a whole. And then I realized that all the things I thought we were doing as knowledge management were basically just communication management. All the things I thought we were building as a hub was just a repository or a website. So then I asked myself, okay, if this is what I thought knowledge management was, then it means that there's probably a group of people out there who also have maybe a wrong impression on what knowledge management is. And we know knowledge management is not cast in stone that you can explain to somebody that it's just about this. Unlike project management, we know project management is about managing projects. So I'm looking at how do I explain knowledge management to a 5-year-old? How do I create awareness on the benefits and importance of what knowledge management is without sounding too technical? How do I let other people know what processes are involved when it comes to knowledge management? And other people involves everybody. Because in my organization, when you say knowledge management, we all believe that is for a specific group of people, those who work under the knowledge management unit. But it's just to explain to people that knowledge management is not for a specific group of people. And it involves very simple things as being very consistent in documenting stories. It involves being inclusive in policies, just to let people know that this is what knowledge management is about. So like Andreas mentioned, we're not just looking at the regional and the national, but at a personal level, what is it that you're doing? So basically that was my focus. I was writing more on, it's like awareness creation. Then I'm also looking at, yes, we say we are trying to create awareness, but what about inclusivity? There are people out there in very rural areas who probably don't have any form of education. So what is it that I can do differently so that I can also be able to reach out to them and make them understand that this is what knowledge management is about, and this is what it entails. So the video was more tailored to, I think, people who are probably visually impaired, so that they can just get to listen and also get to have an understanding on what knowledge management is about. So my focus was not on a specific topic, but more around knowledge awareness.
Thank you very much, Mabel. That was nice of you to explain some of the background. And we're now going to watch the video. It's just under 5 minutes.
I think, Sarah, you need to accommodate the volume before you share the screen.
Sorry, what do I need to do?
When you share the screen, you have to click share volume. You stop sharing, and then when you click sharing, you click sharing volume as well. Sharing audio, sorry, something like this. You want me to do it?
Yeah, you have it too, don't you?
Yes.
Thank you. That would be great.
Echoes of knowledge. Knowledge, we say, is power, yet we undermine the power of knowledge. We say knowledge management is vital, yet we struggle to manage knowledge. We talk about knowledge, yet confuse it with information. We think knowledge, yet replace it with communication. Whether human, external, or codified, the value and benefits of knowledge management must be amplified, taking into consideration the need for knowledge to be simplified, providing room for it to be verified, while understanding that contexts are diversified And hey, be careful. Some knowledge is classified. Responsible knowledge management promotes inclusivity. It does not fail to integrate diversity and has the ability to foster equity. It recognizes and acknowledges complexity, leverages inclusive tools for adaptability, and considers the various levels of adaptability while focusing on interoperability and the need for strengthening capacity. Yes, these are all a necessity. It includes the documentation of best practices, involves the consideration of inclusive policies, promotes the building of knowledge societies, does not undermine the capture of local voices and the need to mitigate biases, while shunning epistemic injustices. Oh, hold on before I forget. Are communities of practice. We must therefore make the process participatory, not forgetting our culture and history. We must document our stories. We must build our repositories within our respective territories. Don't forget, there are always boundaries. How then do we ensure holistic stakeholder engagement? How do we leverage community involvement? How do we involve the government to ensure sustainable development? And you, yes, you, have you written your statement? Be critical and empirical in finding. Be selective and strategic in acquiring. Be innovative and collaborative in creating. Be generous and transparent in sharing. Be adaptive and practical in applying. Be deliberate and consistent in capturing. Don't stop. I hope you are still listening. Responsible knowledge management goes way beyond establishing relationships. It involves building strategic partnerships. It depends on having participatory leadership, because participation drives ownership. And it's big enough. We all need to get on board this ship. Through integration and co-creation, innovation and collaboration, adoption and adaptation, democratization and decolonization, inclusion and diversification, can we find a solution to ensure knowledge preservation and foster social transformation. What then are you waiting for? Everyone has a function.
So thank you very much, Atsu and Mabel, and also Naomi for sharing your statements with us. So now we're going to go into the actual write shop. And thank you for that video, Mabel. I think it's absolutely beautiful. Really, really enjoyed it. We're now going to go into the write shop. We're going to, do I hand over to you, Rocio, to introduce the breakout groups?
Okay, so I'm gonna put on the link. Oh, sorry. Let me just put the link of the form. We will send you 15 minutes, sorry, half an hour to a group. So the idea is that you can, in your group, you can brainstorm, you can discuss how each one of interest is when you write your statement. And here, this is the link. And then in this link, individually, each one of you will have time to write your statement. If you haven't finished it, when you finish before the session finishes, just submit the form. So at the end of the form, there will be a question: have you finished it? Is it ready for submission or not? You just click no. So we will make sure that we go back to you and we can just follow up with you individually to finalize. As you submit the form, you will also receive what you have written in your own inbox. So you will be able to follow up and continue your statement if you haven't finished it. Is it clear? Anyone has a question? No? Okay. So then I will send you. So just take a time to get to know each other. What is each other's interest on the statement? Maybe you get inspired for the people you have in your group. And then you have altogether half an hour, so maybe 10 minutes for 5 to 10 minutes for discussion, brainstorming, and then the rest to write yourself your statement. Okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
and don't forget to take the link in the chat so that you can access a form in which to put your statement.
Yeah,
Great,
I
thanks.
will be visiting you individually groups in case anyone has an issue with the link.
Thank you very much.
Okay, opening the rooms. So we have here Paul, Jane, Chip, Kirui, Veronica. Do you have any issue to join your groups? Okay. Veronica, do you have any issue to join your group? Okay, good. Jane, do you have any issue to join your group? Paul? Okay. Jane, can you join your group?
I'm not yet. I'm having challenges with connection.
Oh. But did you receive an invitation to join?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, do you want me to move you? Try to move you again? Okay. Chip Kirui?
Subsequently, so yeah, so personally not keen to write right now, but yeah.
Okay, do you want to share some of your discussions, Bruce?
Yeah, well we were talking about well, we had Marble and Paulette too as part of the group, and yeah, both of them shared some really good insights. Paul talking about the youth and young people aspect, and I, you know, I don't think that can be emphasized strongly enough. The young people of today inherit this mess of a planet that we've made for them. So, you know, in my view, young people should be at the top of the table in the decision making. And Paul, you know, I think raised some critical issues about in that regard. In terms of jobs. So if we're going to have young people empowered and engaged, what work do they do, and how can we have better knowledge related work? And I suggested, for example, in Australia, with First Nations young people having their cultural knowledge of environmental management, and giving them more jobs to actually directly do it. You know, let's put young people, young First Nations people, in the driver's seat. Let's not have them advising us. No, we should be advising them if they need our advice, and they probably don't. So let's put them in the driver's seat. So yeah, so we were talking about that. And yeah, sort of Marvel also, yeah, raised some very interesting issues, I think, about, just how we actually achieve knowledge management in organizations and how we bring it about. And yeah, people are, you talk about knowledge management and you get this blank look, or they just assume it's communication. So Marvel talked more about that. Yeah, I'm going to talk to Marvel post event about a slight modification to her video and put that on Real KM, because I think, yeah, we need that upfront to talk to people about what knowledge management actually is. So, yeah.
Great, thank you, Bruce. And could you, would you like to add something, Paul or Mabel? And who else was in your group, actually, Bruce? Paul, Mabel, and Epiphan.
Yes, yeah.
Paul, Mabel, Epiphan, would one of you like to add?
I think we just we are trying to do, like Bruce said, I mean, the perspective of young people within the knowledge space, and then also become more of a career perspective in that angles. And that's the key. We need to build more young people to be able to see that this is an opportunity, not just an opportunity, but it's a career path where you can also develop and then create more job. Because I mean, the level of low job opportunity within the scope, but how do we balance those perspective in the scope? And then I think Mabel also asks about in terms of power range, in terms of people who are not sharing information. And then I think we share that. I mean, each and as a human being, everybody need power. I mean, they want power to be able to suppress other people. Other people also want power to be superiority. So at the end of the day, if someone is intentionally not sharing knowledge, just leave him. But I believe strongly that the more you share knowledge, the more you get knowledge back. And then the more you also impact. So I just gave an example, like in some of the institution or some of the organization, you see that people who always share information to other people, they are everywhere. They get some of these opportunities, and those who are secretly not even sharing information, you see them always in their desks. They don't want to share anything, but they are stagnant in one place. And then, I mean, so that's a scope. So I believe, even though we have the power, but we need to be able to kill that power by making sure that we share more information and be open space to each and everyone within the space, especially as the young people within the scope. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Paul. And I really do hope you're going to be putting all of that into a personal statement. Did you start writing? I guess you didn't either, I think.
Yeah, I just submitted it.
Yeah. Oh, you did. That's fantastic. Well done. Fantastic.
Yeah.
I also did a draft.
And in maybe asking some people from, I see that Dahlia, there's people adding stuff in the chat. Was there anybody else who would like to report on what was discussed in your group? How many groups were there? I think there were 6. We were group 6, I think. So would anybody else did any of the other groups start writing?
I did start mine and submitted my first draft, so I just need to polish it.
You've submitted yours, Joan, have you?
Yes, but I need to just polish it, but I've done my draft already.
Fantastic. And could you tell us what yours is about?
Yes, I was talking about passive knowledge management and the way I would love to drive that agenda going forward. Yeah, the discussions behind how we need to tap PK, and just like we are driving the explicit knowledge, and we have a balance, because many of us are forgetting that bit and concentrating a lot on how we can take care of the tangible and forgetting the intangible is the most important part.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And Barbara, did you manage to finish your statement, or?
We had a great conversation. That conversation kind of opened up all kinds of new ways of thinking about it. And so none of us, I think, in that group, we didn't start writing, but I think it was a very enriching conversation. So personally, I have a kind of new approach to that draft that I had started, and there are a couple of things that I want to tweak and add to it before I submit it. But a great conversation in that group. I don't know if other members of that group want to contribute something here.
Who else was in a group with Barbara?
Linga, Yvette.
Yep, I'm happy to contribute as well. Linga, Barbara, like the whole group inspired me with different concepts. I think, what would be very interesting is to create statements like in like duos or trios, because there have been some very common elements.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that would be really powerful as well, because we are in 3 different continents and we identified very common problems. So I think this was very interesting. And one of them was human knowledge in the era of artificial intelligence, and how everyone is investing into this instead of making sure that we need to stabilize the knowledge base, the human knowledge base, so that AI doesn't create hallucinations. And then we were talking about how knowledge management can contribute to the war, how libraries are important, and how communities start at the very molecular level in our society from families. So it would be very interesting to capture the knowledge of our ancestors, fathers, mothers, and then make it sure that the next generations can read them and or hear them. So it was very interesting to talk about how, for instance, audio files could. Oh, Gladys, thanks for the hearts, darling. But it would be very interesting also to make it available for the other generations, because, for instance, I work a lot with Gen Z and Gen A, and they don't read anything. If it's not in audio, it doesn't exist. So we need to consider these things as well. But it's on its own, this is a big topic. So thank you.
Great. And Linga, you were in that group too.
Yes, I also have not written my statement because of the discussion. It was a really, really great discussion. And as Barbara said, now I have more ideas than before.
Great.
But as Yvette said, we're from 3 different continents. So maybe for me, I can represent the East from the developing, an emerging country's perspective, where Indonesia is now in the middle. It's emerging, but it's still somewhere in the middle. So yeah, we still have 2 more days, right?
Yeah, you have more days, and we may give you an extension. Look, I'm looking at Andreas here a little bit, I think, but also really nice you could join us from Indonesia, Linga. We don't have all that many participants from Indonesia, so really fantastic you found us. Really great. Would anybody?
I thank Gladys for inviting me for this. Thanks, Gladys.
And do really remember to share. You can share this invitation with your colleagues. Does anybody from the other group, anybody from another group like to give a brief report back?
Well, I'm new to knowledge management. I'm come from the communications and creative world, and I've got a whole 3 months track record. So I'm on this learning journey, but I found the participants in room 5 just so deeply experienced and perceptive, and I learned more in 20 minutes than I've probably learned in 2 months from that discussion, just in terms of seeing the world through somebody else's lens, through somebody else's experience. And I think that that's a golden key of knowledge management, is if we can look through that lens and other people can look through the lens, it can open up a whole new understanding where we don't make assumptions, where we know. So it's a really exciting journey for me. And I really, really am glad to have met all the people that I did today.
Thank you very much for those words, Gail. I mean, to give a brief response from our meeting, we were talking a lot about local knowledge and also about injustices in the knowledge system. About Dali was talking about how knowledge from local communities is stolen, and Maureen was talking about archives, and Gladys was talking also about sort of knowledge of communities. And I don't have time to open the floor to them just now, because I think we're just really closing up now. But I just think we're going to have a very, very different lot of statements than we did in 2018. I think there's going to be it's going to be really, really interesting. I think it's going to be quite different, with Atsu talking about decolonization of knowledge, and Mabel also bringing all these different issues. I'm just going to maybe give Andreas. Andreas, would you like to have the last word before I close the meeting?
Wow, the last word. What an honor. Let me just thank you for your wonderful discussions and inputs. From what I heard in our group, but also from the report from the other groups, was personal, it was important, it was engaging, and I think that's exactly what we need. Please take your time for the next days or for the next week to write the statement, build on what your heart and your experience tells you, and we will do our best to recognize all your inputs, and we will have a sort of validation workshop for the draft version. You will be invited to join this group and see if we have properly reflected on your inputs, and you can still complain later on. But for now, I think, and we hope that we can reflect well your inputs. And yeah, so good luck. Should you have any questions, feel free to ask, and let's maintain this community and hope that we achieve the desired impact. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Very
bye.
much, Madina and Sarah and colleagues from the KM4DEV Knowledge Cafe community for facilitating this. Bruce, for all your efforts. I think in this spirit of community and collaboration, it's amazing to see how much we can achieve. Thank you all for your efforts.
Thank you, everyone.
Just before you
Okay,
leave,
bye. Thank you, everyone.
just before you leave, I've put a final share of the form in the chat. I think somebody was working that. And please don't forget to submit your statements. Really, we're really looking forward to them and very excited. And thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Sarah,
and Mabel for sharing your statements.
Yeah. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, everyone. Maybe something to share that stood out from our group. There is that aspect of personal statement and also kind of like joint statement. We have similar or common challenges. So it also gives us maybe post the knowledge cafe. We can still link up again, have coffee, virtual coffee, and we write joint statement. And I welcome you, Dali and Nancy. We have a lot of areas of common interest.
But don't forget, it's great to write common statements, but don't forget that you don't have all that. Well, you can have a bit more space, I reckon. But yeah, we want more statements from everybody.
Yes.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.